one of the things that every real estate company has in common is their need for capital. Real estate is a capital intense business. So, in another episode, we will dive deeply into the four methods you can use to raise capital for the projects you're going to do. But at a very high level, the first thing you can do if you have a deal to be done, but you just don't have the capital, is you can bring in a partner who does. That can be very convenient. You avoid a lot of the underwriting red tape. The only downside is you're going to give up some equity. You're bringing in a partner, you're not lending for a specified return. And so you're going to split profits to whatever degree you agree to going into it. Now, the second method would be institutional banks. They can be very good for longer term hold projects, apartment buildings, single family rentals that you intend to hold for a very long period of time. But for flips, rehabs, and most of the other strategies, really won't work very well simply because the closing process, the underwriting process, the timeline, just too extended. You can't move quickly enough in a lot of cases. So that brings us to our third method, and that would be hard money lenders. Now, hard money lenders are used to working with investors. They charge a much higher rate. They're very stringent in what deals they'll take and what they won't, but they're a lot more flexible than traditional banks. So that leaves the fourth method of being private money lenders. Now, we're about to head into the second part of our interview with Dylan Tanaka, where we'll discuss how we use private money lenders in our businesses to great effect. We'll talk about how to attract private money lenders, how to manage those relationships, and how it can be a real win for all sides of that transaction. So join us as we dig in and drill deep on private money lending. Looping back to the private money piece of that, because I totally agree with you that assignments are really the only effective way to do that. The reason that I tell people that haven't done their first deal that, hey, it's really tough to set up a business and launch it, no money down. I mean, it is possible to do, but assignments are pretty much the only way to do that, consistently. And the thing is, without some significant marketing spend and some systems and processes, it's tough to do much of that. So you really have to just work hard and plow everything back in. I totally agree that raising money, that's one of my primary jobs is establishing and expanding our banking relationships, our private money relationships. We use the banks for the long-term stuff for rentals and things. And we haven't had as much success with private money lenders that want to write a 30-year note, but we can get that from banks. Rates are low, but we go after private money, and we've had some success in doing that. But I know you've had a lot more success in that respect than we have, and for a lot longer period of time. What can you tell people about how to raise private money if you're new, getting started out? What do you look for, and how do you talk to people about that?
First and foremost, when it comes to other people's money, you have to understand that their money is more important than yours. So you have to put them first. If you can't control yourself, you're spending, you don't trust yourself, you're going to go to the casino. And I'm not joking when I say this stuff. You cannot borrow money from people, and you have to learn the right way to do it. You have to learn the legal way to do it. Talk to a licensed real estate attorney, talk to a CPA, talk to your title company or closing attorney if you're in a title state. What's important is that you document your process. And this is where new people, even you, James, like you're not new, but you and I have been talking about doing this podcast for a long time, right? And it's not that you're afraid to do it.
Incidentally, shout out to Dylan, because the reason that we're talking right now is because he's been writing me for over 2 years to do this. So, sorry to interrupt, Dylan, but
that's okay.
I want to throw a shout out. This could be called the Dylan Tanaka podcast, because he's the driving force behind it. So thanks, Dylan.
Sure. Well, here's what the thing is, though. So you have to get started at some point. And what we perceive ourselves, I'm not trained on any of this stuff. I'm not a trained speaker. I'm not a psychologist. I just know how people work. This is what I'm good at. I'm a relationship guy down deep. So I try to keep my relationships forever. So I've brought that in, and not to say that I haven't sharpened my skills from Think and Grow Rich or going to seminars or paying attention to people who are much higher, pay scale than where I'm at. But you have to understand that people are excited when they see what you're doing. And HGTV, for example, that when I started in this business, that I don't even know if that channel existed because I certainly didn't watch it. But
No.
when you have Flip This House, when Than Merrill first hit the scene, and Richard, who was before him, and then you had the Montalongos, like we're going back 15, 14, 13 years. We've become exciting for people to watch. Now,
Right.
you and I both know that what we see on that show isn't absolutely true, but they have helped us become stars. So what you can do today, which I couldn't do before, I used to have a flip book because I couldn't sit with one of my private lenders. Perfect example. One of my private lenders was a seller of a previous property. We bought his dad's house. He passed away. It wasn't a probate deal. Somehow through word of mouth, we found each other. And when we explained how we bought properties, and this is how I got a lot of private money, I would say, James, so here's what we do. Usually when we sit down, I'm going to buy this property from you and your wife. We've agreed on a price. I go to someone who backs me on the deal, just like Chase Bank, or I would talk about like a local Michigan bank, just like they do. And they get a note and mortgage, and I end up paying them, 9 or 10% until the property sells. We fix it up and sell it. And they're a first lien holder. We also get them title insurance. So they're guaranteed first position if anything goes wrong. But let me tell you what, nothing's going to go wrong because this is what I do. So I used to have like a flip book. Again, back in 2005, 2006, there was no Facebook. I know that this stuff existed, but it wasn't like today. YouTube was 2-minute videos, and we used to record them on a tape and have to plug it in and upload it to a computer. I'm not kidding you. When I first started doing video and stuff like that. So I come from those old days.
And going back that far, Dylan, you're probably on MySpace. You're probably not even on Facebook, right?
Yeah. So I wasn't a big MySpace guy because it was more for music, but exactly, that's what it was. So I didn't have like this phone. Let me grab my phone. I didn't have this phone available to document what I'm doing. And I put this together for James so you guys can see this real quick. Oops, hold on. I didn't have a phone like this. There you go. I always got the fun stuff. I always got to bring props to my shows, but I didn't have this phone to help document. We didn't have Zoom like we're on today and have all these cameras and microphones and all this cool stuff happening. So I had to do it the old school way. Even though I'm really young, right? I still act like I'm from the World War II generation because I was raised by baby boomers. I'm really Generation X, but I think like those older people do because I spent a lot of time with the older generation, and I try to understand how they think and how they want to consume things. And it's slower. So I would take a private lender. First of all, I would have a conversation with somebody and I would talk about how we do business. So let's start from the get-go. You go to a meetup or a RIA and you start talking about, because this is where you're going to meet local people who understand what you're doing, the bricks and sticks you're building in your neighborhoods, not going to Texas to find guys from Florida or Las Vegas to find guys from Michigan, right? To lend. It doesn't really work that way. It needs to be people who understand those neighborhoods that you're in. And then you talk about, I did this deal. I did that deal. Or I snuck in and partnered with somebody, however that worked. Like our buddy Kevin, who's more of a contractor than a rehabber. He can say he's done a lot of houses because he's partnered with guys. Can he do it on his own? Absolutely. But not the first time. He needed to borrow your credibility or Mike's credibility or my credibility. Now he's got a ton of his own credibility. So he started that way and he could show off his projects, whether that's on a phone now, or I used to drive them to them and say, here's the house that I did, James. See how beautiful it is. We can't go on Saturday. I sold this one. Let me show you another rehab we're doing. I already have funding on this one, but next time we have one, if you're interested, if this makes sense to you, let me know. And you can borrow those properties from people. I used to have foreclosures to go in every day. So I could show them houses that used to sell for $150 in very bread and butter neighborhoods that we could buy for $50, which was very confusing to normal people who really didn't know how bad it had gotten. So then I would show them that. I would show them what I was able to do. I run my own meetup, started in 2006. I would invite them to that group if they hadn't been there. They'd see me on stage, not always teaching, just facilitating, because I'm not a teacher. I'm a facilitator. I can teach, but that's not what I do. So I would be up there and they would see me in this light that we were talking about earlier, before we started the show, but it was by documenting that process. So if you're new, I don't care if you're just starting to go out and look at houses. Do a quick little video beforehand. Show what you're looking for inside and why. The people who want to join coaching programs are looking for pizzazz and shiny cars and watches, right? Not our $300 watches like James and I have, or our $25,000 trucks. They're looking for all this shiny Instagram life. The guys who have money to lend typically don't care about Instagram. They want to know why is that plaster cracked up there? Why is your foundation cracked? What does that mean? How can you fix that? How are you able to buy this one at 50 and sell it at 150 with only putting 50,000 into it? How do you have these contractors? Where did you learn all this stuff? So it's really like education. And again, because of YouTube today, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all this other baloney out there, you can document what you're doing and create your own TV show, but you don't have to be a goofball. You don't have to be crazy. I have this funny stuff behind me because I do a lot of video and I like this stuff, but it's just as easy to grab that phone, like I talked about, jump out of my truck and say, okay, guys, I'm over here in blah, blah, blah city. And I'm looking at this one. Here's how I found the property. A wholesaler called me. Here's what a wholesaler is. Right? Here's how I built that relationship. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy this one and I'm using somebody else's money because they lend it to me. And here's how I do that. So when you explain that to them and you take away the chance for them to get in on that deal with you, now they're like clawing and saying, what about me? What about me? So I always told every lender that ever offered to work with me before we'd done a deal, I'd say, I don't have anything right now, but the next thing I do, I'll let you know if it's not already spoken for. And then they were like, wait a minute, I'm trying to give this idiot money, this 30-year-old punk kid or 35-year-old kid who's flipping these houses. What does he mean he doesn't need my money? Because I wanted to show them that I didn't need their money, that they'd have to stand in line to lend me money. And then I'd always give it back sooner than I promised. Yeah. I'd always give them access to the property. Way back in the day, I had a membership site for one of my coaching groups through my RIA that I started. And I also had like a private lender wing in there. We spent $8,000 building this site so people could log in and see their own page, which is absolutely nuts today. This is in 2008. So I didn't really know HTML and all that crap, but as an entrepreneur, you have to figure everything out. But I hired a real firm. My private lenders used to be able to log in and see like 6 pictures or something crazy of what the house looked like when we bought it, what we were doing to it. We would show their money growing, and it was growing at 8, 9, 10%, right? So they'd give us 100 and it would show that month they just earned, whatever it was at 12%, just say it's 1,000 a month. It'd show that little graph of it going up. And it was almost like, James, you were in the finance world. Right. So it was almost like letting them log into their Janus fund back in the day to see what was going on. So we were doing that back in 2009 because I spent so it was really easy to find deals. Remember those beakers? I don't know if we talked about that live or not, but the beakers I was talking about. So there's always like 3 beakers. You either need a deal, you need money, or you need like the opportunity, right? Yeah. So back then the deal bucket was full. I could get houses like this because we were making a couple thousand offers a month, no joke. So I had the deals. I had the way to sell them because I ran a RIA and I'm a relationship guy. So I've been selling to the same guys and girls for almost 20 years now. But what I didn't have was money. So I didn't have to focus on that other stuff because I built the RIA. I had buyers, and I didn't get all my buyers from the RIA, but it helped. I had the deals because they were there. What I didn't have was the money. And today we have the buyers. We can kind of get the deals, but if you have money, you can always do deals, because James could call me and say, hey, I've got a deal in Tuscaloosa. I don't even know where that is. I think it's in Texas or something, right? And he's like,
I think it's in Alabama. I don't know where it is either.
Alabama, right? So whatever, but someplace in Texas, right? Right. And it's 500, but we can sell it for 800. Here's the numbers. If I have 500, I can do that from Detroit, that deal, because I have that money. And it doesn't even have to be my money. As long as my lenders understand what I'm doing, they're going to be okay with that. Again, 20-year relationships, through the good and the bad and the ugly and the tough times, they always get their money first. I don't get to eat, even though it looks like I do. I don't get a Rolex. I just get a Echo Drive, unlike our contractor buddy, who's making money off of us, right? Not taking the risks that we are every time.
Yeah, we paid for that Rolex, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's to the victors go the spoils, and I always tell Mike Hambright, heavy as the head that wears the crown. So we have to pick up those pieces and deal with it. I'm doing my first meetup tonight since we're coming out of the pandemic, which lasted way longer than it should, and we don't know how long it's going to last. This is my first live meetup in Michigan in a year and a half, and I'm super pumped about it. But I've missed out on tons of opportunities because it's not the best way to, meet people is through Facebook and Zoom and all that stuff.
Right.
So who knows what is going to be put in front of me at this meeting. I just had a kid bring me a deal in Florida, and it needed to be done really quick. I didn't have all the details. So you know how those deals are, you're not just going to jump on it. And he needed like $250,000 to do this deal. And he found somebody else, of course, but those deals come to me, and they'll come to you too, because again, as you are searching for private money and you're documenting, you're not just saying, I'm looking for money, I'm looking for money, I'm looking for money. People see you as the go-to, the make it happen person who's actually doing business. And it all points to you. And like for me, I had a couple partners throughout my time. They're all gone now. They're alive, but they're in different businesses. So who got all the so just say we had 10 good private lenders. Who got all the private lenders? Me, because I outlasted everybody. Who got all the buyers? Me, because I outlasted everybody. I've had my license now for, I don't know, 12 or 15 years. I've done a lot of transactions that way. I still have people come to me to list their rehabs because we used to do that, you know, when we would wholesale somebody a house. We can talk more about that later on another show. I know we're going to talk about how to maximize using your license one day, you know, in another show, but they all come to me because I've outlasted everybody. And that's just because I won't quit. It doesn't mean that I'm smart, but I'm like Rocky or Muhammad Ali, right? I just don't have the belt, but I can stand there and just play rope-a-dope all day long because I'm not going to go anywhere. And that's the other thing that the new generation, I don't care if you're older or younger than me, but the new generation, you haven't seen hard times yet in the economy, and you will. So it's not, you know, I hate cliches, but it's not about how many times you get knocked down. It's how you get back up. And that's going to happen.
Well, I think too, Dylan, you hit on a couple of key points as far as what we've experienced that, you know, you kind of mentioned it, but I want to highlight that when working with private lenders, you know, anybody, vendors, you know, partners, whatever, like keeping your word, delivering on what you said, like at a minimum to what you agreed to, if not, you know, even better, you know, faster, you know, bonus, whatever. I mean, that's key, right? If you establish yourself with someone that, you know, hey, we're going to do what we say, you know, there's going to be no surprises. There's complete transparency here. And they see that, that is probably the most important thing with private money. They have to believe in you, and they won't necessarily, excuse me, they won't necessarily believe in you at first, but after that first deal, and you do exactly, you know, what you said, and it worked out at least as well, if not better than what you'd laid out, you know, they're coming back saying, hey, when's the next deal? So, you know, honesty, integrity, transparency, like I think that's key. Also showing people that you know what you're doing. And so, you know, Dylan's like dialed it up now to, you know, where he's got it all on his phone. We do something similar to show people that, hey, look, you know, we've done over 100 transactions, which, you know, Dylan's done a gajillion times more than that. But, you know, here's what we do. Here's some actual examples of, you know, here's what we bought this for. Here's what we put in it. Here's what we sold it for. That's something that's, you know, this is an HGTV world, even though, you know, that's very not, you know, reality based, even though it's called reality TV. That is the mindset that people have toward us. So if you show them that you know how to deliver and then actually do that, one of the things I learned as a financial advisor, you know, in you know 15 years in that business, you know, people would say, oh, I've got, you know, $100,000. That's, you know, everything I've got to invest. And then once things started working out well, they'd be like, well, I might have another 100,000 or $1 million. No one ever says like, hey, I've got $1 million. If that's what they have, they tell you, well, I've got 50,000 I can invest in this. Once there's some positive experience, all of a sudden, you know, that expands as well. So credibility, you know, capability, you know, doing what you say, those are the things that will help most with private money. We have a gentleman that he actually was a private money lender to somebody that bought a property that we did early on the MLS. And it was kind of a weird deal. It couldn't do FHA. It had to be private money. And we ended up, you know, talking to this guy, and, you know, over, I don't know, about a year-long period of time, we actually met, and he's now one of our biggest private money lenders. He lends on a lot of our deals. He'll generally go see the property because, you know, most, you know, he's local, and most of, you know, all the rehabs that we do are local.
Old school. That's what old school guys do, right?
Yeah, he wants to go see it, and, you know, we've developed a friendship. I actually enjoy seeing him, hanging out with him, and that's the kind of relationships that if you build those, and I know, Dylan, that you do, if you can strive towards that, to where it's not just business, but you treat it like business from your end, you always deliver. That's where, you know, that's where you're going to get the biggest private money, because the private money that agrees to do the deal today probably has much more cash than that. And they're going to want to do those deals tomorrow. Well, I hope you learned a lot about private lenders and private money in this episode. Private money can fuel your business in a way none of the other methods of financing can, from a standpoint of cost, of ease. And the great thing about it is the more of it you do and the more you deliver on your commitments to those lenders, the more they want to come back and lend more money, the more they'll work for other people that want to lend money. So hopefully you found a lot of value in that. Join us in the next part of the interview with Dylan, where Dylan's going to tell us Dylan's dirty secret, and we're going to talk about how to level up your business from wherever you are. So thanks for watching. If you're enjoying the content, click on that subscribe button below. Turn on notifications, because we want you to get all the actionable content that we post as soon as we post it. Thanks for watching.